Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk about Donald Trump's straightforward path to 270 electoral college votes. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new, and make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And so guys, pretty much for this video, I'm going to be going over Donald Trump's straightforward path to 270 electoral votes. We could see here that in the last election, he managed to win the last three swing states. Biden was able to win Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona by a combined 43,000 votes. In the 2020 presidential election, he was able to make North Carolina and Florida somewhat competitive, although Trump did gain in Florida compared to 2016, where he only won it by 1.2%. He ended up winning Florida by 3.4%. And so you clearly see gains were made there. However, Trump did lose gains in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona. As a whole, Nevada kind of trended to the right. It voted by roughly the same margin as last time. So it trended to the right. But long story short, Biden barely won the last election by a mere couple of thousand votes. And that was when he was polling extremely well. If you look here on, May 13, 2020, Biden was ahead by a couple of points in the aggregate. He was actually ahead by 4.5%. That ended up being the final margin in the popular vote. And on election day, Biden was ahead by 7.2% in the aggregate, and he only ended up winning by 4.5%. Now, Trump is up in the aggregate by 1.2 percentage points. And not only that, if we look at the five-way race, with the third-party candidates, Trump's almost up by 3 points nationally at 40.5%, 41.5%, and his approval rating is sitting right around 43%. Biden sits around, the high 39 percentage point, and so that is a really bad look for Joe Biden coming into this election cycle. He is currently down in every single swing state. He is currently down in Michigan by a little bit. Biden actually took the lead in the five-way aggregate after quite a long time. He's ahead by 0.3%. But if we look at the polling aggregate in 2020, we're going to see that Biden got overestimated in the aggregate by 1.5 points or so. And so that is really interesting to see that, even here, Biden was overestimated by quite a bit. And if we look at Clinton was overestimated by 3 percentage points in the aggregate. So just because Biden is leading the aggregate in Michigan does not guarantee he is going to be the victor there. But the good part about the election is Trump doesn't even need Michigan to win. The good part about the election is that Biden could win, the traditional swing states. He can win, basically win all the deep blue states, win Illinois. He could go out there, win New York. He could go out there, win Minnesota, win Virginia, New Mexico, Minnesota, get 214. He can win Maine at large, and he could basically go out there, even win a New Hampshire there, and even lose Maine's 2nd district. Now, Trump here will gain a couple of states here. He'll have, Ohio and Iowa in the safe column. Alaska over a 10-point margin there, Hawaii over 10 points, and Texas and Florida would be solid to likely Republican here. And so we'd see that it's roughly a similar battleground map in terms of a straightforward path. Now, I suspect that Trump probably wins North Carolina by a likely margin. If we look at the aggregate right now, Trump is up by 5.4%. Biden was overestimated in the aggregate by about a point or so here. And in 2016, Trump was also underestimated here by 2.7%. And so he's been underestimated in North Carolina before, and now he's ahead by 5.4 percentage points in the regular two-way race. And in the five-way race, he's actually up by 7.5%. And if we look at Nevada, Trump is up by 8.8% in the five-way race. That pretty much puts Nevada outside the margin of error. And if we look at Georgia, Trump is up in the five-way race by 6.4%. So he's well outside the margin of error in North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada, which puts him at 257. And if we look at Arizona, he's ahead in the five-way aggregate by 5.6%, which also puts him outside of the margin of error in that state. And that gets him to 268 electoral college votes right out the gate. And the latest poll from Nebraska's second has Trump ahead by 3, and it was newly redistricted. And Trump was also underestimated in Nebraska's second in 2020. So just based off polling alone and seeing that, okay, well, Nevada is a huge lead for Trump, so is North Carolina, so is Georgia, so is Arizona. If Trump's really outside the margin of error in all those states and he picks up Nebraska second, he already ties in the Electoral College. So he wouldn't even need any of the Rust Belt states in order to win the next election. He could just have a Sun Belt sweep, including Nebraska second, and tie in the Electoral College, and more than likely win it through the contingent election that is held when a candidate does not receive over 270 electoral votes. Now, the other path for Trump is also really straightforward. North Carolina, that would be in his column. Georgia would be in his column. So if he's able to have those two states plus Nebraska second, he could basically, and not even with Nebraska second, let's say he loses that one, he could simply pick up Pennsylvania and call it a day and just get 270 electoral votes right out the gate. And as of right now, Trump's ahead in the state by 2 percentage points in the regular way race. And in the 5-way race, he's up by 2 percentage points. And in 2020, Biden was basically performing right in line with the RCP aggregate. However, the percentages were a little bit different. But what's funny is that Trump was underestimated in Pennsylvania by around 2 percentage points or so. So it is not a guarantee that he actually ends up getting, over underestimated. It could end up lining with the RCP aggregate, but just because Biden was spot on in the aggregate doesn't mean that it's going to do the same thing. He may very well be underestimated in the state of Pennsylvania. And if he's ahead in the aggregate by 2, that's a really good sign for him. And that puts him in a good spot to win Pennsylvania. As of right now, he is looking to win Pennsylvania pretty easily, and that's with voter registration in Pennsylvania for Republicans doing very well. The governor imposed automatic voting registration whenever somebody gets their license or whatever. But what's funny about that is that it's actually backfired, because a lot of the new registees are actually leaning very Republican, and there's a lot of Democrats switching from Democrat to Republican there. And so that already puts Trump at 270. Another path Trump has is just winning Nevada, where he's leading by 8.8%. And he could just win the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan is looking really, really good for him right now. He's currently only down in the 5-way aggregate by a tilt margin as of right now. And he's even ahead in the 2-way matchup, which is pretty interesting. It seems like the third-party vote share actually hurts Trump in Michigan, which is very interesting. I wouldn't have really thought so, but that's what the data is suggesting. And the polling has gotten closer, and Biden finally took the lead in Michigan. However, it is too small of a lead to say that Biden is definitely guaranteed to win it, because Biden and Clinton led the state by multiple points and were overestimated both times, to the point where it was to Hillary's detriment in 2016. And so we can't assume that Michigan is going to go into that Democratic column just yet. However, states like Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina, you could almost say that they're 100% guaranteed to go, especially since their polling leads are very massive. We're talking about polling leads of over 6 percentage points, which is well outside the margin of error. So you could say Trump's guaranteed Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina, which already puts him at 257 electoral votes. And based out of the leads there and the lead in Arizona, you could even say he's guaranteed Arizona. And that would just put him, he would need one of the Rust Belt states. But if he gets Nebraska second, he doesn't even need Nebraska. He doesn't even need the Rust Belt. He could just win with the Sun Belt and get Nebraska second and probably end up calling it a day at that point. It would be better for him to gain a Rust Belt state, presumably Wisconsin. And the thing about Wisconsin is that this is also another path for Trump. He could also win through the Rust Belt here, where he just kind of simply wins. He could just simply win through Wisconsin and Arizona. That's another path for him to win the White House. And the reason why I'd say that'd be another viable path is because if you look at Wisconsin, Trump is up barely in the head-to-head matchup, and he's up by 1.2% here. But the scary part for Biden is that he was leading by 6.7 percentage points in the aggregate, and Biden only won it by 0.7%. So he was extremely overestimated here, and Trump's ahead by 1.2. So if you were to apply that polling miss to this aggregate, Trump would be ahead by a likely margin in the state of Wisconsin, which would be a really, really bad look for the for the incumbent president. Michigan and Pennsylvania would more than likely be lean states at that point, and you could see that Trump could fairly, win the election fairly easily, and he's got multiple viable paths to the White House. His first path I already discussed is his Sun Belt strategy, where he kind of wins those Sun Belt, which are all states where he's leading by over 6 percentage points, or at least over 5 percentage points, even 5.5 in some cases, especially Arizona. If he wins all the states that he's leading ahead by 5.5 points or more, he's already got 269, plus Nebraska second, which is a +3 lead. And it is the first poll out of the district. So that is his first path. The next path he can take is just simply getting Georgia, North Carolina, and getting the state of Pennsylvania. That would get him to 270. Another path that I discussed was Nevada, and Michigan being another path for him to win the White House. Michigan, I'd say, would be a good target just because of the Israel-Hamas conflict is definitely affecting how Muslims vote in the state. Biden got 100,000 uncommitted votes in the primary, which is going to be a really bad look for him in the general, because that's about a third of his margin, plus the voters that voted for Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson combined to around 140,000, and his margin in the state was 150,000 votes. So just out of the Democratic primary alone, Biden's margin in the state of Michigan's already cut down to about, basically less than 0.1% effectively from his 2.8 percentage point lead from 2020. And so this would be a good target for Trump to get. And he's already guaranteed Nevada. He's guaranteed Georgia, North Carolina based out of polling as of this point. Arizona, you could say, would be more iffy because it is a left-trending state. But for this scenario, he could just get 272 with Michigan and Nevada. And the other scenario I talked about was Trump just getting Arizona and Wisconsin, which he's guaranteed Arizona based out of polling data now, Georgia and North Carolina, and based out of historical polling errors out of Wisconsin, he is also probably guaranteed to win Wisconsin as of right now. And guys, the voting laws have gotten significantly better for some of these states. Georgia, for example, I don't think Trump's going to have a problem in North Carolina because even in previous elections, he's never lost it. Georgia, Governor Kemp just signed a law saying that all absentee ballots have to be counted by 8 p.m. So we will more than likely know the winner of the state of Georgia within a couple of hours of poll closings. We'll probably know by 10 p.m. Eastern time, which would allow the election to be called fairly early, because if North Carolina, Texas, Florida get called early, and Pennsylvania is such a big lead for Trump, like let's say he wins it by 2 to 3 points, we could kind of deduce, okay, he's probably going to end up winning it. I could call the election fairly early and just give him 270 right out the gate. And I would probably call Wisconsin and Michigan for him because the Rust Belt usually tends to vote together. It's voted together ever since the 1980s. 2016, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania all voted together. And in every single election, it's always all voted together as well ever since 1988. So ever since the 90s started, the states have all voted together in unison. And I'd expect the same thing to happen in 2024 unless third-party vote share was just really out of control. Then we could talk about the states voting separately, but I think as of right now, Kennedy's not getting high enough of a percentage for all the states to vote separately. So I think if Trump is winning Pennsylvania, he's more than likely winning Wisconsin and Michigan as well. And so that is it for this video. I'm going to put up Trump's most straightforward path to the White House, which would be just Georgia and Pennsylvania added from 2020. And those are all the paths for Trump to get to the White House that would be the most effective. If you guys did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, make sure to follow the Twitter, and join the Discord in the description down below. And I will see you guys very, very soon.